Iris Fuller, welcome to the Retail Whore Podcast. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Just want to make sure. Everybody, this is a huge pleasure for me to be able to interview you. You are a retail icon. You have been out of retail for some time, and I'm so lucky to be able to have you on here with me and tell your story.
Thank you.
We have one person to thank for this. Well, how this came to be was we put out a poll to all of our listeners and we asked for people to give us some names of stores that they would like to hear us interview. And we heard a lot of great stores, but I heard more than 3 times Filamento. And I know your store from the days of retail, the heyday, the 80s and the early 90s. And my old boss, Michael Campbell from Fred Segal, would take me to San Francisco to the gift show when the gift show was huge. And he would always take me to his haunts, his favorite stores. And your store was the one I remember more than anything.
Wow.
So I want to dig in deep and kind of hear how Filamento started and then take us through how the years at the store, because you had the store for some years and it evolved as it went on, but your story of how you started, that's where I want to start with.
Okay, it's not a pretty story.
They're all not pretty.
Well, I had worked menial jobs, raising 2 darling children. And there was a neighborhood that was really beat up in San Francisco, and it was Fillmore Street. It was that corridor, and they were all boarded up stores. It was really dangerous, and I was looking for a restaurant with a friend. The Asia Cafe was down the street, and then we just started walking the neighborhood, and I see this old, empty, verstunkene building. It was so bad. Um, and I saw this mezzanine and it had this balcony, and the building didn't look, on the outside it had been remodeled, but on the inside it had really been left alone. And I thought, oh my God, just to hang garland on that and wreaths and decorated for Christmas. So I forgot about it. And then a few days later, I was telling my husband about it. We drove by and I took the phone number and I called, and one thing led to another. I had $300 in my pocket. I signed a 10-year lease.
Oh my God.
Uh, I had 3 free months, and I thought, and everybody said, don't do it, don't do it, you're crazy. I said, that I know. And off we went, and we just started. And I bought a hose, a band sander, a floor sander, and an hazmat suit. And I went at it, and a broom, a really nice broom.
Oh my,
And we
you
just
did it
went at it.
yourself?
We did it all ourselves. My son, my daughter, my husband, all of us. We just got in there. Friends would stop by and I'd shove a broom in their hand. And I really didn't have an idea of what I was going to do. I just wanted to make that building pretty.
How long did this take you to get it from that point to opening?
About 3 months. We opened, I was ready on April 1st, and I thought, no, I just can't do that on April Fool's Day. So I waited till April 2nd. And I had a couple friends that were reps, and they had showroom samples and, all the samples that I said, well, I haven't got a pot and I have no money to invest in this business. And so I would just take anything. I knew I could make it look good. No matter what it was, I could make it. It was all about merchandising. It was all about display. And as you can see, as it evolved. And that's what we did. We just we opened, and a lot of people thought, I don't know if she's gonna make it or not. And little by little by little. So then we started taking merchandising on consignment. It was creative financing. So
Yeah.
we took, when showrooms would switch out all their samples, they'd bring all their off goods, and there it was. It just started. And so whatever came in, we kind of created these departments. We had home office, we had housewares, we had bath, and the mezzanine was all empty. And I had a little table up there for a desk. And we started out with a girlfriend that loved to clean, which I love, 2 teenage girls and myself. And off we went. And to tell you the truth, we did probably it took us about 5 years. And we were aiming at 5 million a year in sales. It
Wow.
just started one thing after another after another. You know, we wanted a place that people felt comfortable. I didn't care what they bought, if they bought, why they bought. Every sale was just like so special. It was right at the skin of our teeth for about the first 5 years. It was sweating it out. Didn't take a penny out of the business, paid our little staff. I forgot what we paid them, not very much, but and my daughter didn't want to go to school, so she didn't want to go on to school. She'd finish high school. And I said, well, if you're not going to go further, then you're going to go to work. And this will be a fine place for you. So, and then we've had to get a bookkeeper, and then we had to get another staff member. And then we had to, it was like an amoeba. It kept growing and separating, growing and separating. And every time we went through a little growth spurt, and the merchandise just came in. I had no control over what was coming in. I just looked at slides after 20 years, and it's like, oi, oi, oi. I had merchandise in there that was quite insane.
At what point did you change from, taking on samples and stuff on consignment to where you started really curating the brand?
Little by little, little by little. The first thing we bought was this box, if you can believe it, a box of metal heart lips, little pins. And they were on the counter, and every time, that was the only thing I owned in the whole store personally. And every time we sold one, it was like, oh my God, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And then as we started to accumulate some capital, I had no idea what the gift industry was all about. I had never been to a show. I had a vintage jewelry store. So I used to haunt the flea markets, and, I could buy Bakelite bracelets for $2 and $3 and $4 and $5 at that time.
Wow.
And so I've always been kind of a merchant. My mom said I played store when I was little. So I've always been, somewhat of a merchant. And the whole vintage thing was way before it was even popular. So I had a store, and loved it, loved every single thing in it. I didn't care if I sold it or not. It was the other way around. And so it took a long time. I would highly not recommend it to anybody to do it that way.
What I love, because I am horrible at just jumping. Like, I told you off camera yesterday that I had stores at Fred Segal, and, I had a chance to I had one store, and I had a chance to take a second store. And against everybody's advice, including my attorney, my accountant, and my grandfather, who was the accountant for the city of Norco at that point. So he knew numbers. It wasn't just like a random piece of advice, but I was like, no, it's going to be amazing. I'm going to do it. And I jumped. And it's like, even now at this stage of my career, I still will take risks and jump. And there's something very special to say about the people that will take those risks of opening a store in an area that no one is in, building it from scratch.
Well, I to this day, I get sweaty palms when I see an empty store. There's just something about it. It's potential. It's like, what does the area need? What would be fun there? In fact, I just closed a little gallery down here in Mexico, and I had it for a year, and I had a few showings and openings and stuff, but I have just finished putting together a segunda, a little thrift store for a dog rescue down here. And they had all these donations, and it was just this empty construction hole. And, there was 30 women willing to fold jeans and press things and iron them and clean. And so
Wow.
we just put a little store together. It's so adorable. And so I love store. That's what I do.
It's
Other
still
people do
very
other
much,
things.
it's very much in your blood. I mean, I think all of us who are in retail and who love retail the way I think I often wonder, what am I going to do when I walk away from it? Because I do miss having a store. I will say that. Like, I'm lucky enough because I'm a merchandiser by trade. So I go into other people's store, and I still get to play with the beautiful things and create what I love the most about retail. Some people I do buying for, so I still get to see the shows and do
Great.
Yeah, so I still have my hands in it, but it's not mine. So there's that feeling of where I like, I still want my own store. And now that I see, because retail now is so different
Oh, yeah.
and
Are you sure you really want one now?
well, I mean,
You can
part
do
of it is
everything on your computer.
one of the most beautiful things that's happening in retail is like the tabletop division is now becoming pantry. So all these beautiful culinary foods and dish towels and cookbooks and that's now what I look at and I'm like, if I do another store again, but I don't think that feeling ever leaves you. And I love that you still are have your hands in it and you're still have that true love of retail.
But I really don't, what I told the gals um, at this benefit, I said, I'll put it together for you. I'll curate it, I'll merchandise it, I'll do all the display, I will train, I will do everything that needs to be done, but I won't run it. I don't want the employees, I don't want that I dearly loved. I still get mail and love letters from my sweetie pies. They're just, they're like family. They're literally like family. I was so blessed to have a core group that was with me for a very long time. My manager was there for 18 years. Others 14, 15 years, long time, long term. I took good care of my staff. I figured if I took care of my staff, they'd take care of the store. And that's what happened.
Yep, that is one of the key things that think a lot of people don't understand is that if you treat people like they're your family and that you show your love to them, they will show their love to you in your store and that it's important. It's
Well, I
part of
kept it
them.
exciting. I tried to keep it as exciting. Not only was the store exciting, and I get bored in about 3 minutes. So if new merchandise didn't come in every day, it was like, oh no, we can't get bored now. But we had Friday morning meetings, and I said, even if you're off that day, come in your jammies. We're okay. Put a trench coat on, and whatever. We got together every week.
Love
Had
that.
whether it was cereal and milk or bagels and cream cheese or whatever it took. We got together and we talked about it. And so I wanted it to be challenging. I wanted bright people. Retail's a chosen profession. It's nothing you can go to school for. It's nothing. We had lawyers, we had a physician that created, he inherited his grandfather's lavender fields in Provence. And he wound up he felt that aromatherapy was more healing and more important than him practicing medicine. It
Wow.
was like amazing. And he did this incredible product called Quintan. Anyway, it was spectacular. So lawyers and designers and this customer came in and she says, every week she came in right after her paycheck, dropped half the paycheck there. She said, I better start working here. I said, you better do that. And so she became one of our ace salespeople. I mean, we had a really, San Francisco is such a beautiful city and the people there are so special. And so we had a very eclectic mix of people that worked for us. And they were the ones. I mean, when I no longer had to feel I had to be on the floor, and when I felt I could go to the Paris show and the shows in the UK and leave the store, that's how I knew it was okay. When you can leave your store for a week or 2 weeks or whatever it takes. But the first few years, I did 6.5 days a week I worked,
Yeah,
you know.
I can imagine. Tell me a little bit about, because you've touched on so much stuff now. I'm like dying to ask you more. Tell me a little bit about, or us a little bit more about, now you're at the point where, because explain a little bit how the store layout, because there is a mezzanine, but the store was rather large. So you started, I'm assuming, on the first floor, but tell
First
everyone a
floor.
little bit about that, the architecture of the store, of how the floors were laid out.
It's called Early Western, and it would have been a great horseshoe bar. It just, or a small little theater. It was 3,000 square feet on the ground floor, so it was substantial in size.
Wow.
And then 1,000 square feet on the mezzanine.
Wow.
And then after 5 or 6 or 7 years, we built a staircase to go upstairs, and that was another 1,500 square feet in the offices. We really expanded, and we had 3,000 square feet of storage in the basement.
Holy
So it was a lot of room. But we
wow.
started out categorizing, and I just thought, I wanted a kitchen section. I wanted a living room section. I wanted a bedroom section. I think when you're we wanted to do it for the rooms of the home. Once I was controlling what was coming in, it was the rooms of the home, things that would go in the bedroom and things that you normally wouldn't buy for the bedroom. Maybe it was good for the bedroom. And so it was all the rooms of the home.
Mm.
And bath and baby didn't come until the mezzanine, opened up. We opened that up and that was separate. So that was a walk down. Oh, it was just so yummy and smelled good, and linens and bedding and shampoos and lotions, potions. And we changed it all the time. I think that was one of the most important things I can share about the store. Every month that window was changed by
Mm.
the first, hell or high water. And we had a front platform when you walk in, and that also changed. And the cash wraps, we had 2 displays of the cash wraps. So whatever the theme was, or the color, or the subject matter, you know, whatever, that's what we did. So that changed. Most of the customers were from the neighborhood. So it was for them. I mean, they would just come by and see what we're doing and just so happen to buy something.
Oh my God. Thank you for saying that, because that is, the importance of changing your displays and your merchandising for the people walking by your window and for the people coming in your store every single week. To say that that is for them is the biggest gift to your customers you could give.
It is. It
And
is.
I don't think a lot of retailers they understand merchandising and they understand they need to change window, but I
Right.
don't think people understand, if you're consistent with it and changing it that often, how important that is to your business and to walk by traffic and to your regular customers.
I was in New York City and there was a men's clothing store, and I was walking down Fifth Avenue. It was nighttime, and in the behind the doors, they had glass doors, and they had a beautiful jacket, pants, accessories laying kind of on the floor. So it was kind of for people who walked by at night, kind of
Oh,
entertaining them. It was spectacular. So
oh,
lo and behold, I mean, we left that to the managers and whoever wanted to do it that night. We did not leave the store without a display at the front door. And we had a big rock that had filamento on it. And so who's going to do the rock? What's on the rock? They started about 3:30, 4 o'clock. What's going to be the rock tonight? And sometimes it was just a simple cup and saucer and an exquisite spoon and napkin. One time I come in and there's a freaking Christmas tree sitting on the rock. I mean, they just went way over the top. But anyway, and it's all for them. It was all for them anyway. And I think too, the store was such a creative release for me. And I have to say, Michelle, I was so blessed. I worked with 4 major players in the 20 years that we were in business, and they all had they were visual merchandisers. They had hearts of retail,
mm.
and they loved, 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 loved. I mean, jumping up and down and screaming when somebody came in the back room. I
I know
mean,
that
that's,
feeling.
and I also started taking them on all my buying trips.
Ah,
So they were able to give me feedback, know what was coming in, work the colors, work the seasons. You have to create seasons in San Francisco because they don't have them. They
yeah.
have fog and sunshine. That's it. No summer. So we were about 3-4 months ahead, knowing what was coming in, timing it all, canceling what wasn't in on time, and controlling it that way. So we had a plan as we were buying.
I see, that's how I do it. I will curate, and as I'm buying, oh, this will go with this and that will go with that. And so I find, when you guys got back after these trips, did they do big storyboards? Did you all have meetings and lay out what the display looks like, or was it
No,
kind of on the fly?
it was, well, once we became in sync, as I looked through these slides, it was really interesting that there were 4 distinct styles of the store as it evolved. When we started, it was kind of like there was no Crate and Barrel, there was no Pottery Barn, there was no anything. The only thing there was one little Z Gallery down the street, and she would copy me. So it's like, hey, don't do that. And so the first one was Rick Herbert, and Rick was so talented and so minimal and so stark and controlled. And so the store was kind of like this techie. It was techie before techie. We had moving mats in different colors. We had a lot of chrome and black and white checker floors, and that kind of red and black and white.
Mhm.
And so for 4 or 5 years, we went along with that. That's what the store was. And then little by little, it started to change. Then Southwest came.
Mm.
So we were starting to create the themes ourselves instead of waiting to see it. And
Yeah.
of course, nobody could touch a magazine when it came in. It sat on my desk till I looked at it first. I had to have the
so much alike.
first ink. I had to have the first ink. When we moved from California down to Mexico, no, Southern California, I took over 10,000 magazines.
Holy
I shipped
moly.
in. We had the most amazing magazine store down the street, a European magazine store, and I didn't have time to read them. I just kind of I zipped through them. We'd see what we wanted. And I finally harvested them down here.
Wow. Okay. That is amazing, because I always ask people where they find inspiration. And for me, because I'm old, I can't do things digitally. Now catalogs are all digital. And for me, who's tactile, and I will tear things out and lay them out so I kind of do my own storyboards. But magazines to me I can't do digital magazines. I have to have the pages.
Oh yeah.
Tear them out and I'll pull them together.
It was the smell of the new ink on the paper.
Oh my God. It's so nice to meet somebody that's the same mindset about
yeah, I need to touch it.
I'm not letting anyone touch them.
Yeah, I think that era is going away. Everybody, I mean, the electronics scare me more than anything else in the world at this point, because it's all in this little stupid phone.
Yeah.
And that's not me. It's not me.
It's not me either. I mean, you would have a heart attack doing the shows now, because now it started happening pre-pandemic, where they started, it's obviously to save paper. There's a reason, but trying to go through these catalogs, especially big catalogs that are usually like this big on paper, trying to swipe through them. And then I can't remember what was in the first section. And then you got to go back. And I know I'm sure because I'm also not tech, as I've told you about. I'm sure there are ways to save them and create your own storyboard, but I need paper. I need
to touch it. I need to feel it. I need to feel the suede and the leather, and I need to feel the dishes, and I need to touch it, and I need to be, stimulated by the physical being of those things. I mean, the show, I think to walk Javits is 12.5 miles.
Yeah.
It was my triathlon.
Yeah.
Looked great from the ankles up, but boy, those tennies from the ankles down were my orthopedic tennies.
So talk to me. Okay, there's so much I want to ask you. Talk to me about when you started doing the shows and when you did the European shows. How did you approach the shows? How did you do it?
Well, I felt that I was like a fountain of needing that stimuli. So if I bought at a show, fine. If I didn't buy at a show, I had the catalog. I had a reference to be considered. I bought from 4,500 vendors.
Wow.
Manually.
I
had really good file cabinets, and they were numerically, sorted, and I had someone that really took care of that. And so if I needed certain things, I'd go to these catalogs. There were things I didn't want to stop at a show and buy. I'll buy it later. The shows came as soon as I found out about them. It was like, oh my God, what is this? This is a whole other world. And then I was totally addicted. I went to every show there was. And I also got very involved in the industry. I was on lots of boards and lots of juries, and our store was so visible, and we got so much press from the industry. We were on the cover of, lots of decorator magazines, and we also did an enormous amount of renting out. And so we would get credit. I think I counted up. I did the archives about 4 or 5 years ago. I finally went through everything. I couldn't schlep it. My husband says, I'm not dragging this stuff around anymore. Pounds of it. So I went through an amazing amount of stylists, food stylists, and James McNair, so many cookbooks and stuff. So wherever we could spread our name, I mean, it just kind of lit up a page. When I'd see, I go, okay, okay, you know. So our name got out there a lot, and it was an unusual little name. So, and I really loved, people could tell that I loved what I did.
You
I
still
couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to get there in the morning. I hated to leave at night.
can.
Every waking moment was something I could do. It was a creative challenge every single day, not only with the people, the the staff, the customers, the vendors. I mean, I used to not even write down the name of who was coming in unless it was pertinent. And I would just put 4:30, 6:30, 9:30, and I'd just be surprised by whoever came in. It was just one of those things. I had created kind of a heaven on earth.
Well, you really nurtured, it sounds as if you really nurtured your staff. I mean, you and I had spoken the other day, you had listened to the podcast, the Merchandisers Roundtable that I did with Fabian, who I worked with at Z Gallery. And you had told me, and I had said, he's the thing I love about Fabian is how he approaches merchandising and how he works with his team now at Romans and how he worked with his team at IKEA. And you had said one of your creative people is now at IKEA and has been with them. Talk to me a little bit about your creative team and
I was asked to speak at the Academy of Art, and the subject was turning retail into a career. And I thought, oh, perfect. I always wanted to be an art teacher, but I never got to. But I went above and beyond, with the store. It challenged every single aspect of me. So it was, I I used to have a sign on my bulletin board that said, "The mind is a wonderful thing. It starts working the minute you're born and doesn't stop till you stand up to speak in public." So I hated to do public speaking, but it was more question and answer. And I went, and 3 of the kids quit school and came to work for me.
oh,
It
it's
was like,
great.
oh, don't tell your mom and dad that I did this. But anyway, so this little guy, Eric Martineau, a little French Canadian guy, was studying stage sets and ballet and all that. Anyway, he came. I said, show me your stuff. So I give him a table and I said, just work in this section, do something on the table. He puts this metal chair up on the table. He covers it with moss. He uses turquoise and tomato red like I've never seen before. And he did this table that I even said, and I've never said it since, up to that time or since. I said, oh my God, it's over the top. It's too much. I said, this is my boy. And he stayed with me for about 7, 8 years. And he was brilliant, brilliant. He was like an extension of my soul.
Oh,
And he loved it. Like he loved it. He just loved it, loved it, loved it. As I did. So that sparked everything. We were at dinner one night, Eric and I see this roll on the table. We take the napkin off the basket of rolls, and the top of this roll, this dinner roll, was the most gorgeous color, like a pale apricot, like a mango apricot. I makes my mouth water. And we said, okay, that's going to be our autumn. And so I bought an Italian leather sofa. We bought hand-blown glasses, the dishes. We went to the flower mart once a week. Fresh flowers were always in the store.
thank you.
And live plants. And that was our theme. That's what created it, is just that muffin. And we just didn't even have to talk about it. We both saw it and said, that's it. And so that's how you live like that. You live like that. What's the next? 100% committed. I mean, that's what I've spoken at maybe 40 seminars.
Wow.
And they were all just kind of get rid of your heels, get some flats, and if you want to do retail and don't expect to make any money or make a living, you'll make a living, but you'll be happier than a loon. And that's so important. I think that's the most important thing. And so at the 20th anniversary, just shortly before we closed, I always wanted one of those Klieg lights, when they have the new cars, and they have those, when they used to sell new cars, and they had these lights that go up to the sky.
Okay.
big spotlights, giant ones, in Los
Yeah.
Angeles, they're probably in front of everybody's house, but nonetheless, nonetheless, I stood out there. I had ordered one for the art party, and there it was. And it was like dreams got fulfilled. Would I have gone to Paris? Probably not. But a friend, a dear friend, said, "You can't go any further in your life until you go to Paris." So at a dinner, he handed me 2 tickets for my husband and I to go to Paris. And he
And
started out designing restaurants. He made me a little happy birthday plate to put in the store, and then a Passover plate, then a Christmas plate. Then he went on to major, and he became the creative director and vice president at Pottery Barn
wow.
from these plates.
Oh my
And
God, I love
so I have wonderful success stories, and the truth is in the proof is in the pudding. It really, I think what we did, people saw. And I think the biggest, most important thing that I want to share with you, Michelle, is that there we created a company called Filamento International that I don't know if other retailers know that, but we had artisans and craftspeople. I mean, I had to buy from the trade shows because I needed that, that's what you do. And yet I wanted the store to always be creative and have artful things in it, and things that were really unusual. And when you're running a store, you can't go to every gallery and everything. So this little girl comes in, little British accent. She was a runner and a waitress and was here just living a life in San Francisco. And she brings me this stocking, this Christmas stocking, and it was kind of like Victorian, and it was so ugly. It was brown and blue. I said, "Gosh, do you think you could make one that was?" I said, "It's beautiful, but can you make one in red and green?" She says, "Well, I don't really have much money." I said, "I'll buy you the fabric and just go home and make it." And so she brought them back. They were like 40, 50, $60 we retailed them for. We sold a dozen in 2 days.
wow.
And within a week, they were in the Washington Post, and they were on Good Morning America. And
Oh my God.
and it just like, it was like crazy. This wild thing blew up. So she needed representation. And I thought, everybody, I mean, she could be making so much money here. She's a starving little waitress living on her tips. Well, I'd say maybe 4 or 5 years later, she sold her company for $7 million.
Holy
She
shit.
went above and beyond. You've probably seen them around, and they've been knocked off a bunch of times, but there's a big rose pillow, and there's a pea pod pillow, and an eggplant velvet pillow.
Wow.
And anyway, it was this line that was just beautiful, and she had 15 sewers, and oh my God, she was my poster child. But we
Well,
started a company repping artisans and craftspeople.
wow. I didn't realize you also were in the whole turned into wholesale as well.
Well, because I had tried to open up a second store about 3 times, 4 times. And for some reason I thought, I'm going to be driving between these two stores and I'm never going to be at my store. And
Yeah.
who could get any better than Fillmore Street? Who could get any better than that beautiful old building? It was a 1880s grocery store.
Wow.
Nobody had butchered it. And then it was a five and dime, Florence's five and dime for 40 years on
How
Upper
long,
Fillmore.
how long was it till the rest of the neighborhood was built up around you?
There was 6 of us that started. We started a little merchants association, and there was a bakery, a travel agent, a little cafe, and I forgot what else. But anyway, there was just a few of us, and we kind of got together, and little by little by little by little, we had a street fair, and I think it was Feinstein was the mayor, and she came out and blessed our street, and we were out there scraping gum off the ground, and crazy, crazy, just really, seedlings. Nobody knew anything. We just did it.
Well, what I love is that, you obviously, mentor your staff and you obviously really brought them under your wing, but you also did this for a lot of other people. I interviewed Michael from Cursive, and Michael and his partner husband owned Motel Deluxe. And Michael's, by the time your interview comes out, I believe Michael's interview is coming out in November. But Michael talks about you and how you mentored him, and that you, and I'm hoping this was on camera because I know we talked about it, and I'm not sure if I wasn't sure if you had signed on yet. So I'm this might not, but he talks very fondly about, and he's very open
Aw.
about how much of a mentor you were. And tell for the, I think it was lampshades and shower curtains and pillows, and change this, do this fabric instead. And you really, you I think part of, for me in retail, what is hard and frustrating is that a lot of people hold secrets to themselves, and they don't give other people advice because they're either afraid they're going to do something or
Oh,
knock something off. And it's what I've loved about hearing stories about you is how much you give of yourself and your knowledge and your information and your love of retail, and you just pass it out. And that's what I believe in my soul, is like what is so important for this next generation of retailers.
Michelle, so many people helped me along the way, and I had nothing but, admiration and love and respect. And to learn it is one thing. I learned by the seat of my pants. There's no book that opens up and says, oh, this is retail 101. There isn't. So whenever anybody needed any help or any suggestions, or they said, what would you buy if I, and so I would just do that. I would just tell them what I wanted, because I couldn't always find what I wanted. And when somebody was willing to do custom, and I love working with individuals. I had this glass blower, and he made me these incredible, they look like leopard skin glass drops that were chandeliers. And a hotel comes, we're repping him, and a hotel comes and wants 400 of them. And he was not going to do 400. He says, I can't do 400. I said, you're going to do 402, because if any break, you're going to, and they were hugely successful. So anybody that came in, and also I was very open to talking to people that had, they want to show me something, or somebody from Gumps would send somebody over because it wasn't Gumps, but it might be more Filamento, and so I love to help.
I love that. I'm texting back and forth because, which we'll get into more of where you're at right now, but this interview came about because we put out the asking people who they want to hear from. And Nathan from Nathan & Co. is a very famous store in San Francisco. And we've interviewed him here on the podcast. He he's our next Retail Horror road trip, where we went to the store. I believe it's, I don't think it's College Town. I'm not sure. He has 2 locations, and we filmed in, and he had put out your name, and I was like, great, can you get a hold of her? And he's like, I don't know her personally, but I'm going to find her. And he tracked you down on Facebook.
He did.
He let me know. And then I tracked you down, and it turns out you now live in an area 45 minutes from where our little beach house is in Baja. But Nathan has stories about you and the store that I think are incredibly important to tell. So I've extended the invitation for him to come on to the podcast. So I'm waiting for him. So we will continue talking till he jumps on. He came on for 2 seconds and then he disappeared. So I don't know what happened, but I just texted him and told him, okay, come on now. But tell me, here he is right now. This is a format we've never done, by the way. So I'm completely winging it, but I think that this is so special that I think that it's really important to have Nathan here with us as soon as he turns on his camera.
Hello, guys. 1 second. There I am, sort of.
Hello, darling.
Hi, Michelle.
Nathan, meet Iris Fuller. Iris?
Hi.
Nathan?
Iris, I am like it's like magic to me to be able to actually speak with you. And thank you so much for being so beautiful and gracious on Facebook when we went to connect, because I was like so nervous, because in my world, you're like, sort of a goddess. Kind of like Michelle.
Thank you so much. I hope in my world now I am too, but anyway.
I'm sure you are.
I love your message.
How many years has it been since Filamento?
We closed a week before September 11th.
You're right.
So 21,
I think that I still have the fragrance embedded in in my brain of what the store smelled like with all those
Oh,
scrumptious, delicious
yeah,
things.
that was really important how it smelled.
Well, I want to thank you for creating such magic. And originally, when I reached out to you, I was really kind of nervous because I didn't know, like if you'd want to hear from me. But um, the thing that I just want to thank you for is, when I moved to San Francisco when I was 24. So that was like a few years ago, right? And I didn't have like more than two dimes to rub together. And going into Filamento was like such a treat. And I think I told you this in one of my messages, like I was always treated so beautifully and kindly. And I distinctly remember one Saturday morning going into the store, and you always had such a fabulous staff. And walking in, and the music's playing, and it smells great, and you have all these amazing things that I cannot afford to buy, but I, can look and touch and smell. And we had our little Jack Russell Terrier with us, and one of your guys came out with this beautiful crystal bowl with chilled water and gave our dog a little drink out of this very fancy bowl. And it's embedded in my brain. Like I will never forget that magic. So later in life, when I go to start my own stores, like your impressions of what retail was like became my impressions of what retail should be like.
Oh,
And to this day, my stores are now they're going to be, this is our 17th holiday season that we're going into.
wow.
To this day, people will still walk in and they'll be like, "Do you remember the store Filamento?" And I'm like, "Oh my God,
Oh,
I do." So you're really quite the legend. And thank you so much for being so gracious and beautiful and chatting with me.
oh, thank you so much, Nathan. I told you, you brought tears to my eyes because how it smells and how it sounds and how people are treated is so, so very important. I don't care if you buy anything or don't buy anything, just enjoy. Just
So
enjoy. And
yeah, and that's every time I do training, I always tell our staff, I'm like, you know what, people will come in, and it may have been something that I read that you a quote from you, or it was just a feeling that I got in your stories. It really was about experiencing, having an experience. And whether they bought something or not, it really doesn't make any difference. It's about showing them kindness and being gracious and letting them have a little vacation.
oh, that's perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks, Nathan. The best of luck to you.
Thank you, my dear. Such an honor. I need to come to Mexico so I can buy you lunch or a
Oh, I
margarita.
would love that. I would love that. And you'll see how bad the service is down here. It makes me crazy.
Nathan, you can come down with us to our house. We'll do a little weekend at our Baja house because her Baja house is 45 minutes from our house.
Oh my gosh, let's do that.
Each
Let's
trip.
do that.
That would be so fun.
Perfect.
This was really important for me to have Nathan on. Nathan has graciously sponsored this episode, and this is the way I see it is this is Nathan's love letter to the younger generation of retailers, because there's a lot of young people who are listening to and young retailers who don't know the store, but for the people that do, you are literally retail royalty, and you the stories and your way of doing business obviously has such an impression on Nathan and how he runs his business that it's what I created this podcast for, is for retailers to hear from other retailers and what worked for them and what didn't and what they love about it and what, all of the things that we love as retailers. This was really important to me, and it was so important to Nathan, and I'm so grateful that Nathan, you literally made this happen.
Well, and I want to add really quickly, like the philosophy of how Iris visually put together the store really made a huge impression, because she, how we've always talked about mixing the high with the low. Iris was the queen of that. So you could walk in with an excruciatingly expensive crystal bowl, but she may have something silly in the bowl that you could easily buy, right? Anyone could buy it. So there was something literally for everyone.
That was so important. That was always so important. I can't tell you how many, maybe millions of rubber duckies that we sold. When people think of Filamento, they don't think of a rubber ducky. Not only that, but the rubber ducky was, I think, retail at $450 or $475. and everything, we had free gift wrap. God knows how much that all cost. I know that each gift wrap averaged out at over $4 a piece.
Oh my God.
We had 7 full-time gift wrappers at Christmas.
Holy moly.
Free gift wrap. Didn't matter what you bought.
Oh
So,
my God.
so the rubber ducky got gift wrapped like everything else. So, I mean, I'm sure the accountant wasn't really happy with me, but so what? And I think that they say something like 14% or 15% of your customers will shop with you because you gift wrap for free. And I thought, what else could I do? I couldn't put an ad in, or I couldn't, promote or whatever that would bring me that kind of customer base. So our free gift wrap was notorious. And
beautiful, might I add.
it was pretty.
I
We
would
changed it out every year.
I would literally like just get chills and not really even want to open it because it was so pretty. And it was like, there was this certain amount of cachet when you would get that curly cute F sticker on a box. It was, to me, it was magic. And you did inspire me there too, because we change our gift wrap out seasonally. And we have a bunch of full-time wrappers at Christmas as well.
Oh,
and
it's great.
I'm also still to this day wrapping those rubber duckies.
I was okay until they were passing around a bottle of tequila back there one time. I think it was a few hours before closing at Christmas. I go, what's going on back here? But have a good time, I say.
Iris,
Yeah,
talk to us a little bit about what holiday looked like, and Nathan, you can chime in because you've been there. What did holiday look like as we are all getting ready to set our stores for holiday? Tell us a little bit about what Filamento looked like during the holidays.
Well, I'll tell you, we had double high ceilings, so we bought 3, I think 18-foot trees.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
all year I would buy ornaments, but I bought themed. I came across this one Carmen Miranda ornament, a glass ornament, and so that tree was Carmen, and every piece of fruit or vegetable or anything I could ever found all year was on that tree, solid. And then that year we had one tree that was fire and one tree that was ice. One was all blues and purples and silver and gorgeous, and the other one was all red and orange and hot pink. And
I love that idea.
It's so yummy. Yeah, no, it was really yummy. And the other thing, I was talking about this the other day, is that I walked into Home Depot or Costco and they're just Christmased out to the nines, have been for weeks and weeks and weeks. We literally would not, I love Thanksgiving. It's my favorite holiday. We were all about the home, about dinnerware, about serving, about parties, entertaining. That's what the whole store was about. Your home. And so we held back. We had them all numbered, what tree they went on. They were all stacked in the basement, ready to go. We did not decorate at all until the day before Thanksgiving.
So did you close the store and then because
no, we stayed all night. Bring your friends, bring your family, we'll feed you. We had turkey, we had whatever, and everybody worked. And it's amazing how, with a little simple this and a little simple that, you can turn anything into Christmas. You don't have to go insane. So our trees were really, really magnificent. And we had the window all planned. So that went in. And so we had a very short selling season. And literally the day after Christmas, it was a line out the door for anything that was half off, and we put it half off right after. So for 2 or 3 days, and then bingo. There's an interior designer in San Francisco. For the life of me, I can't remember his name. It's so sad about that. But he did a seminar on no dead fly. It's called No Dead Flies in the Window. And it was all about display and fabulous. And so it was fast and easy and furious. And I wanted people to celebrate. I can't tell you how many people came in and said, oh my God, it's so wonderful not to see Christmas.
I know, it's so sad. I mean, now it's like, I am leaving Saturday to come up north, up near Nathan, and I have a store that we're setting her. We will be closed on Halloween, so thankfully we are setting her Christmas full Christmas will be set up by the time she opens up for business again, November 1. And I think part of it is honestly because of now the way the business is for retailers, you know, like Home Goods and some of these other big people bring in Christmas so early, they've knocked it down to 50% off before all of us have even set it up. So it's kind of forced the hand to have to set it up earlier. Do you feel like that, Nathan?
Yeah, I actually haven't thought of it in those terms, but you're absolutely right. I also think when Nordstrom decided to get decorating and getting ready earlier,
Yeah.
it kind of took a little bit of pressure. But I think the dynamic is a little different now than like in the Filamento days of, we really kind of did set that tone. Like the more exclusive the store, the later they set their stores for Christmas.
Oh, for
We're
Christmas,
we're
they
actually
have it up.
we wait until after Halloween and then we start sneaking things in because I need every last dime. So we don't close ever. Not unless the store floods.
No, don't say, no, I agree. I understand that, but we literally sold out, and I didn't buy a lot of Christmas merchandise. And we had a platform in the middle of the store that was about, maybe 10 feet by 10 feet square. So I concentrated all of the ornaments and decorations and things on that middle. So when they came in, there was such an impact. But if I had my tabletop setting there, I would fill a bowl with pine cones, or I'd fill a bowl with acorns, or something, one beautiful little ornament in a wine glass. It didn't have to be everything,
Yep.
Inundated with Christmas stuff. So, and I didn't want to be stuck with it either. I mean, I had a budget too, but it's amazing. And we were jam packed and fabulous. So we made so much money every single day. It was crazy, 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 insane. And people loved it. They just loved it. One day we had a Santa, the same Santa for 21 years, the same man. So kids grew up. Even after they were grown, they would come and sit on Santa's lap. So
it's so
same man.
magical.
Yeah, same man.
I read the letter that you wrote your store 5 years after you closed, and take us through a little bit about when you did make the decision to close, because you really did escape you closed literally weeks before 9/11 when, obviously everything.
1 week, September 3rd, it was my husband's birthday. And
talk to us a little bit about that decision to close and how, take us to where you are now.
Sure. The lease was coming up, and he was not kind to me, the landlord. And he, at one point, I wanted to buy the building and he would not sell it. And then the lease came and he said, "Don't worry, Mrs. Fuller, don't worry, Mrs. Fuller." Well, I should have worried a lot, because he took the rents, and the rents on Fillmore got so insane. They were charging key $250,000 for a key charge for little tiny stores. We started when it was really rickety, and we kept calling, "We're going to turn this into a 5-star street, Fillmore Street."
And Filamento was the first store of its kind on Fillmore Street. So she was really very legendary and really took some risks on Fillmore Street. And to this day, Fillmore Street really owes Filamento a huge amount of thanks for its success.
Well, Nathan, what happened is if they came into my store, they'd come into next door. In fact, my first merchandiser was John Stevenson, who has Trumpet, the little socks. Anyway, John's incredibly brilliant designer. He was my first. He kept knocking on the door when we were working in the store saying, "I do windows. I charge $100. I said, "I do windows too. See you later." He turned out to be just an incredible friend. To this day, we're friends. And he brought an essence to the store that made it spectacular. But anyway,
Iris, I don't mean to interrupt you. Can you tip your camera a little bit? Because all I can see is your forehead and a little bit of your eyes. There you are. Okay. So talk to us about the rest of how.
So we decided, in a hurry, and business was going on a decline. They were canceling a lot of conventions and things in San Francisco, the economy, you weren't hearing about it because so many people depended on the tourist industry and blah, blah, blah. And Willie Brown, I think, was the mayor, and we were seeing in the corner, and I didn't know what was happening to my business. I'd have meetings with the staff and I'm saying, what's going on? What's going on? Business kept dropping. We had dropped about 8%. And it was bigger than I could handle.
Mm.
I couldn't, as much as I didn't want to, I just had to do that. And it's like giving up on your child. It was like, years. People had said, do you want to sell it? Do you want to sell it? I said, would you sell your child? They said, no, I wouldn't sell my child. But anyway, so that's the downfall. And we had a big closeout store sale, and I have a notebook. I left an open notebook on the counter of people commenting on the store and their thoughts and things. This notebook, everybody would cry if they read it. People were bringing us food and candy and champagne, and oh my God, I could have sold the floorboards if somebody was. There was a line around the block. It was crazy. It was crazy, and everything. And then we donated everything that was left, all the office supplies and all the, our staff was going home with giant bags of toilet paper. And I said, that's your bonus. Anyway, very sad, very sad. A lot of people a lot of old employees came, and said goodbye. And it was kind of like, I had to do it. And then of course, a week after we closed, September 11th happened. So I never really got to mourn the store. I
Wow.
was mourning our world. But, the store.
I had something on the tip of my tongue and now I just totally lost. This is what happens when you get old.
I have chills after listening to that.
I mean,
Iris, it was like really that's a beautiful way of remembering your store and why it closed. And then, you mourned the world and you never got to mourn the closing of your store. I think that's pretty amazing, actually.
Well, I'm refreshing my house right now. I really downsized when we came to Mexico, and I thought I had downsized. Now I'm downsizing again, and I realized that so many of the things around me are from Filamento, and I hold them around me for souvenirs. And so I'm surrounded by it anyway. And I'm doing some fun artwork and some other crazy things that stemmed from the store. And yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it was so beautiful.
You had mentioned that you had written a book, and if you have I know you had said you weren't sure what was going to happen with it, and I hope you do something with it, and with all of the archive of photos and letters and all of everything you just told us about, I hope you do this, and I hope you include all this, because it honestly, it's so important, and it's a retail love story. It really is.
It is. It is. Yeah, I couldn't wait to get there in the morning, and my husband and I had a pact. 6 o'clock, it was like Cinderella, and I'd go charging out the store 45 miles an hour, so he wouldn't have to park out there. I got rid of my car, and I just, because parking was horrendous, but it was like I wanted to be there. I just wanted to be there. I couldn't wait to get there in the morning, and I hated to leave at night. And I had a beautiful house and a beautiful husband. We'll be married 60 years, January 19th. This coming January 19th. Thanks. And yeah, it couldn't have given me any more. It couldn't given me any more. We paid for first and last. We had one of our staff members was in a fire. Her whole apartment burned. We were able to help. We were able to put other people in business. We were able to set we had over 79, about at least 79 artisans and craftspeople that we were able to promote. We had the first bar of soap that was glycerin with a little ducky in it. Years ago. I gave him 1 square foot. We used to do the Javits Center. We did 8 booths on accent and design. And this 1 square foot yielded $75,000 at retail, at wholesale.
I still remember that soap because we bought it for Fred Siegel Access.
Oh yeah. No, it was amazing. It was amazing. So we were able to be on the edge. We didn't follow trends. We were setting trends, which was so exciting. And I was submerged. 24/7. If you didn't want to talk about the store, I didn't want to talk to you. It was like I didn't have any other life.
Talk
I
to
don't
me
know.
about how you feel that now that, because how did you end up in Baja is my first question. And then
Oh,
now how do you all the things that filled you up and your love of the store, what fills you up now?
okay. So I had saved all the swatch books from the furniture and bedding and linens and everything from the store. I had a giant box, and it was just some of the most beautiful fabric I'd ever seen, and they were just little pieces. I didn't know what to do with it, and so after I closed the store, I had a baker's rack, and when something like we got an order of chopsticks, jade chopsticks, and they were all broken when they came in. And the shipper receiver knew how I loved all those little things, and so he would save them for me. So in this baker's rack, each tray had a different color of stuff. A broken earring, a piece of something, a packaging off of something, just stuff, just little tchotchkes. I also was a flea marketer for 50 years. That was our Sunday morning ritual to go over to Marin City and do the flea market in Marin, and we were the flea market in Paris. It didn't matter. So I still have this passion for jewelry and stuff. So I did a collage, and my friend Brett said, "Iris, those are so spectacular." And Thomas Reynolds, who had a gallery on Fillmore, said, "I want to do a show for you." And this was quite a few years after we closed. So I did 26 of these collages of all these little tiny pieces of fabric and little parts and pieces and stuff that I had. And my son built these gorgeous shadow boxes and glass, and I had an art show. I was like outside my body. It was like Christmas morning and wedding day and birthday and all put together. Friends flew in from other places and flowers, and oh my God, and it was like, okay, I'm on my way. So I finished the collages. I go and see the movie Benjamin Button, and at the end of the movie, the logo comes up, and there's all these black buttons, and the BB for Benjamin Button came up in brass buttons. I got a rush from the bottom of my feet to the top of my head. It's like, oh my God, I could do that. And so the next day I went to an antique store and I bought a jar of buttons, and then there was no stopping me. And so now I have a casita that's about 23 feet by 18, 20 feet. It is full of buttons. And so I do button art.
Wow.
And I do collage, and they're kind of like merchandising, teeny weeny things. It's all about putting things together. And so I've been doing that for about 20 years.
Wow.
And I love them. I've had shows, I've sold them, I've made them specifically, especially for people. Yeah, and I love it. So me and my glue.
That is amazing. I mean, I can't even tell you how much this whole, I can't wipe the smile off my face. Like I love hearing all of this. It's like, I hope at the end of my career, and I hope when I go and retire, I hope that I sound like you, like of passion and love for our industry. And I really, I have chills. Like I'm so lucky for this opportunity.
Oh, I'm so delighted. I'm so delighted to share it. I mean, to learn it is one thing, but to teach it and share it is something completely different. It's like, why experience something if it can't help somebody else? I mean, the reality of that is just, that's what a teacher must feel. I mean, teachers were my favorite people, my favorite people. And so in my own little tiny way, if I can share something with someone, I mean, my husband says, you got to stop merchandising the house, Iris. Because I do it all the time. We just refresh the whole house. And it was kind of like a new sofa. I'm going to have to pay retail for a sofa. It's going to kill me.
How, I did ask, but I didn't hear, how did you end up in Baja?
Oh, so we had been looking for San Francisco. We love. My husband was born and raised there. My children I came when I was 16. the most beautiful city in the world, truly. And when I closed the store, we realized September's that Indian summer, and we were 3 blocks from the ocean, and it was fogged in. We were fogged in day after day after day after day. And my husband says, okay, it's time for palm trees and swimming pools. And okay. So we looked all the way down the coast. We wanted to be in the water. We really didn't think about Mexico. A friend of ours had a house in San Felipe. We went to visit him. And across the street, we weren't even in San Felipe for 24 hours. And there was a little tiny house that was like $18,000, adorable, off the grid, solar. I said, oh my God, let's, and it was a mess, a huge, horrible mess. Oh yes, let's do this. So we bought that. We drove over to Ensenada. A friend said, let's go to Ensenada for your birthday. Came over here. Ensenada is so beautiful. It had such a vitality. People were hosing down their sidewalks in front of their stores. Mommies were taking their kids to school. I don't know. It just, people were driving fancy cars. It wasn't like Mexico. And yet it had an essence all its own. So we came out to this little way down about an hour from Ensenada, and we just fell in love with it. So we said, okay. And then we were going back and forth for a while. We're going from San Felipe to Ensenada. And then we said, okay, COVID came. We said, okay, let's stay in Ensenada, safer, better. And we just sold San Felipe, and we're just, to my right, not 20 feet is the ocean. It's like the sand is right here. I'm right on the beach. The sun sets right in my bathtub. You know, it's amazing. So we're totally settled in, and it's kind of a forever home, and couldn't be any happier.
Did you speak Spanish before you got there? And I'm assuming you speak.
No. You mean my 20 Spanish words that I know?
Thank you, like me.
Yeah.
And I'm
but we get through this. The Mexican people are so extraordinary. Between pantomime, charades, a smile, a handshake, they love you, and they're so beautiful, and we get through. And if we don't, I use my phone.
I want to retire there. And he's like, well, you probably should learn how to speak Spanish. And because I am half Mexican, my uncle, my family live in Mexico City outside of
You can
Toluca.
take Spanish classes here anytime you want.
And
I
it's
can't,
really
I don't, I no habla español, I say a lot. But I just went to I mean, we go to Costco, we go to Home Depot. It's not that, it's kind of crazy. You have to look for Mexico things,
Yeah. I have one question I ask everybody at the end of the interview is and you've already given so much advice, so it seems redundant to ask this, but what piece of advice do you give to this generation of retailers?
Oh, that's so hard. I mean, if you don't have a passion for it and you don't love what you're doing, then go. I used to say this to new staff members when they started. I said, we're going to give you a 30-day trial. You need to love us. We need to love you. If this isn't what you want to do, go pump gas in a gas station. I mean, you can't even pump gas in a gas station anymore. But down here, you have to, but it's like, follow your heart. Follow your heart, follow your pen, and take care of people. They'll reward you with being a customer for life. We had customers for life. So it's that's all I can say. If you're not loving it, loving the product, it being a part of you, and you feel like, I find that passing the goods on to the world is a very noble profession. And so that's what I can leave you with.
Thank you so much. Nathan, what would you like to say in closing?
This was like such a dream. So thank you. And you have touched so many lives in the Bay Area and around the world. I always love hearing Filamento stories from my customers, from our sales reps. And I've been told many times by sales reps, Iris, that, lines would be awarded to sales agencies based on their relationship with you and whether they could, they could get their brand into Filamento because it was that.
God.
Well. So,
wow.
you know, you really have changed a lot of lives. And now that I've gotten to talk to you, I realize why. Because you're a really beautiful person, not just the outside, but the inside too. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Nathan. That's so sweet. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.